Virginia Crosbie, you were elected as a Conservative MP in 2019. You've just turned 56. If somebody had said to your 16-year-old self, you're going to be a Conservative MP, what would you have said?
I would have said absolutely. I would have been shocked if I'd be a Conservative Member of Parliament. At the age of 16, I was the first person in my family to stay on at school beyond the age of 16. My grandfather was a miner. My mother worked in a jam factory, and it was thanks to inspirational teachers that I actually stayed on in the sixth form and actually went to university. So I think if you said to me, now I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm the Member of Parliament for Arnismore. This was a constituency where I didn't even speak the language. My nickname in Westminster is Atomic Kitten. I'm trying to get a nuclear power station. And I also ended up with four young adults, four teenagers, because I had the daughter of a Ukrainian MP for the last 6 months. So my life has changed dramatically over the last 3 years.
You've been living with, or you've been hosting, welcoming into your home the daughter of a Ukrainian MP?
That's correct, yes. Part of Zelensky's party. A lovely, lovely young lady. And she was really embraced by Anglesey. She worked in one of the local cafes. And she's now studying here in London and hoping to go to university next year.
You seem like a very upbeat person, but reading about you, there's been a lot of tragedy actually in your life. Tell me about the car crash that you're involved in.
Yeah, I have had a very, very challenging life, and I think one of the opportunities here today is to talk about my background and the things that make me the person that I am. And before I went to university, I had a really terrible car crash. I was in a car that rolled. I nearly died. And I really smashed up my face. And I had around 10 years of surgery to put my face back together. I had to wear a mask at night. I had to wear sort of gel patches on my face. But during my maiden speech in the House of Commons, I actually stood up and I thanked the plastic surgeon and his team that had supported me, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. He really ensured that I went to university, and he really gave me the courage to keep going. And unbeknown to me, that amazing plastic surgeon, he and his wife, they have a cottage on Anglesey. So I had the privilege of actually going to meet him and meet his family. And together we helped raise money for his charity, which is called Cleft, which funds surgeons to go out to places like Bangladesh and to actually train other surgeons to treat cleft palates. So it was my opportunity to actually support him and give something back to him.
Gosh, it must have been absolutely terrifying. Were you a passenger in the car?
I was a passenger.
That moment of impact and the rolling, can you still visualise that? Do you have flashbacks to that moment? Is it imprinted on your memory, that moment?
Yes, it makes you feel very mortal. You understand what it's like to nearly use your life, and it really makes you embrace life so much more and really want to make a difference. And when I wake up every morning, I genuinely want to make tomorrow a better day for as many people as possible. And being the Member of Parliament for a place like Arnismore that's been left behind for decades, it really gives me that opportunity. And I try and reach out to as many people as I can. And I think of the island. I think of the island like a cake, cutting it into slices. And I want to help the young people, the elderly, the farmers, the tourism sector. And I want to deliver and trying to deliver for every single person on that island. I aim to have a reputation for working hard, for being very approachable, and really roaring like a lion for Arnismore in Westminster.
If anybody who is watching has been through the sort of near-death experience that you went through and has rebuilt their lives and go on to achieve wonderful things in the way that you have done, do you have any words of advice for people who have had to have the sort of surgery that you went through to reconstruct your face? An amazing job. I'm looking at you and you look fantastic.
I mean, it takes a lot of courage. It takes an awful lot of courage. And what I would say to people is to keep going. One of the reasons I talk about my background, and I'm very happy to talk about my background, as I want people to think, do you know what? If Virginia can do it, anyone can. If Virginia can become a member of parliament with her background, I'm really, really proud that I've got working class roots. And a lot of people think that members of parliament are very privileged and they've got, landed estates. And I want people to know that is not my background. And I want other people to look at me and look at what I've achieved and think, do you know what? I can do that too.
The car crash is not the only tragedy you have survived. Your brother Simon took his own life in 2018 at the age of 52. It's very recent. Tell me about the build-up to him taking his own life.
Well, we were very, very close. We very close in age. So a lot of our school time, we were in the same class at school, we were in the same choir, the same hockey team. We had the same experiences. And he knew everything that I've been through. And he'd also knew how far I'd come. And it was somebody where you didn't actually have to explain things. So we used to speak on a regular basis. And really, it was he became ill and very, very depressed and very, very, very suicidal. And it was a really difficult time. He tried to take his life several times. He had a young family. And I was absolutely devastated when he succeeded. And I think one of the saddest moments I've ever had was trying to put a tie on his young kids for the funeral. It was really, really, really difficult. And I was the only one that spoke at his funeral, actually. And when the coffin was going, he had actually asked for them to play the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, which even in his death, he always had the last line.
I read that, and this was an interview a little while ago, that you still text him sometimes. Do you still text him now?
I do still text him, and whoever's got his mobile number now must be wondering what's going on. But no, I do. I still feel very close to him. Still go through the photos. We had so many shared experiences together, and in my maiden speech, I mentioned, there was one person that I wished could have been there, that I wished could have been listening, that knew how far I've come, and he wasn't. He wasn't there. But I still feel incredibly close to him. And one of the things that I've done as a Member of Parliament for Honest Morn is I launched a campaign to get 100 people trained in mental health first aid. And I think particularly with my experiences and with the pandemic, we can really see mental health is on the increase. So I think it's important that part of the role, I think, of being in public service is to really show by example. And I think it's important that we talk about mental health so that people know how to get help and that we can help in terms of signposting.
How did you hear about Simon?
I received a phone call from his wife, and it was the most devastating phone call. And it's the time that your life changed forever. And most things that happen in your life, you can sort of undo, or you can make a difference, or you can change, or you can do something about it. I'm quite a doer. I'm quite proactive. I've got a lot of energy. And this was something I simply could not do anything about. He was gone. And when I went to see his body, actually, with his wife, I was very angry. I was very angry that he'd left his wife, he'd left his family, he'd left me. I was very, very angry. But I'm just determined that other people, if I can save one life by supporting other people, then that's the right thing.
And are there processes or mechanisms that have helped you to deal with something so awful? It's heartbreaking to hear about Simon and about your experience learning about it, the funeral, viewing the body. How have you got through?
I'm a very practical person, and I've got a lot of energy. I'm used to working very, very hard. So I think I've worked through it by or dealt with it, not really dealt with it, but worked through it by really helping other people. And I think that's a pattern I've seen throughout my life, whether it was my car crash, helping with a charity called Cleft, helping with this mental health campaign. And my husband and I, we lost a baby, and I got involved with the charity Save the Baby, working with Professor Leslie Regan and helping raise money for early pregnancy complications and miscarriages. So I've been able to use my experiences to help other people, and that's how I deal with it. And
so you go into Parliament, the abuse that members of Parliament, particularly women, are subject to is well documented. You gave an interview early last year, so over a year ago, probably 19 months ago or so, and you said that you'd reported around 30 threats, abusive emails and social media posts to the police since being elected as an MP. You said that in March 2021. We are now about to start January 2023. Have things improved since you said those things?
Absolutely not. If anything, it's even worse. And it's not just myself, it's a lot of other, particularly female MPs. We're not on Twitter. Even before we've had breakfast, many of us have received one or two threats. I think there's an awful lot more that we can do in terms of this social media and the abuse. And I think there needs to be more accountability. I think the reality is people can turn to social media with impunity. I believe on Twitter that accounts should be verified, and on Facebook there needs to be fines. There needs to be fines to some of these social media companies for allowing this content, and there needs to be much more control of the ability for the end user to control what they can actually see.
Have you ever felt threatened in real life? Virtually is horrible. I know it. I've been there. I've seen emails. In real life, have you ever thought, gosh, this is getting a little bit intimidating, this situation?
I have been. I have been in difficult situations. I have surgeries. I do face-to-face surgeries where I wear a stab jacket, obviously following the murder of David Amess, and also I have security protection as well. And I think it's important that I have direct contact with my constituents. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that I have to do to ensure that I can actually do the job that I was elected to do.
And final question. Despite all of that abuse, the fact that you have to wear a stab jacket to do a central part of your job, which is to give advice and help to constituents, any woman, whatever party, who's looking and thinking, gosh, that's not for me, are they wrong? Should they do it?
No, please step up and get involved. We need you. This, being the Member of Parliament for Honest Morning, it's the best job in the world. It's the hardest I've ever worked and the happiest I've ever been. It's an opportunity to make a huge difference to an island that they needed a champion, and they've certainly got one. We need more women. Around a third of MPs are women, and just over 50% of the electorate are women. So we need these women to step up and get involved so that the legislation, the laws that we are passing reflect the whole of the electorate. And if they need help or support, just get in touch with me. I'd be delighted to help.
Very positive note to end on. Virginia Crosbie, thank you. Thank you for talking about and sharing the real you.